Hello everyone. Happy Friday. So this is once again a video discussing Spider-Man in the MCU. For those who don't know, I adore Spider-Man. He is one of my exceptions in Marvel, right? Because you know I have a bias to DC. But for Marvel, my exceptions, my three: Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four. Not in that order, but those three, absolutely. When Spider-Man debuted in the MCU, I was hyped. I was hyped as hell. I loved him in Civil War. And then we got the trilogy of films. And by the time we got to No Way Home, I was just so disappointed and infuriated with the characterizations of everyone, but most especially Peter Parker / Spider-Man. The character assassinations were insane. And I discussed them a bit when I did my relationships video, with Spider-Man and his relationship to MJ, Aunt May, Ned, so forth and so forth. For me, at its core, those relationships fail because there is a lack of duality between Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Period. The writers failed at delivering an interesting duality to Peter / Spider-Man. The most critical aspect of his character, one of the most critical, and it's completely glossed over. It's completely glossed over in the MCU. It's so infuriating because there are so many avenues you can take. But what it boils down to is really how much of a hindrance Spider-Man can be to Peter Parker. We've seen it in how many animated TV shows? How many movies, how many comics have we read where we saw how much Spider-Man impeded on Peter's social life, his romantic life, his time with family, to the point where he stopped being Spider-Man? Because him being Spider-Man and people knowing that he was Spider-Man, the bad guys, it took away loved ones. So he dropped it because it was too much of a strain. But you can't even explore that for a couple reasons. Number one, because death means nothing in the MCU. So even if you kill someone off that's important to Peter because he's Spider-Man, they're probably going to come back. So there's no emotional weight. There's no type of emotional connection you can even have. Number one. Number two, everyone seems to be fine with him being Spider-Man. Nobody has a problem with him bouncing back and forth. Nobody. Aunt May doesn't have a problem with it, even though you found out he was Spider-Man right before the events of Infinity War. Okay? He was at a school trip and then fucked off to space. And you weren't aware of this, I assume. And if you were worried out of your mind. Then the blip happens, 5 years go by. I don't know if Aunt May was blipped. Number one, if she was blipped, that should have affected her. And it should have made her even more worried about Peter Parker. If she wasn't blipped, your nephew was presumed dead for 5 years. And that took no emotional toll on you? You're just fine with him doing all this in Far From Home? Okay. Then Ned, there's no dilemma there. There's no dilemma with MJ because she already knows he's Spider-Man. So you've skipped over that. Like, nobody has a problem with him being Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a hindrance to no one. And for me, that's not interesting. That makes him boring. Because I like when a superhero has that duality. They have to balance their personal life with their superhero life. And sometimes it can clash. And sometimes it has destructive results. In addition, like I mentioned earlier, the lack of duality with Peter and Spider-Man, it trickles into the relationships. It makes them all uninteresting because you're removing the impact that Spider-Man has had on Peter, whether positive or negative, like with Aunt May. From what I remember, right? Aunt May was not the biggest fan of Spider-Man at all. And I know there are iterations where she grows to understand Peter being Spider-Man. At the very least, she's worried about him all the time. Even when she doesn't know he's Spider-Man, he's out all the time. And that's her nephew. But when she does know, she doesn't tell Peter for a while. So she's constantly worried about him when he's out doing his thing. But when he starts out and she doesn't know about it, she's not a fan at all. So you could have a dilemma right there, because Peter, while he feels and knows that he's doing the right thing, he could also question it all the time, because the person he looks up to, his closest parental figure, is not a fan of Spider-Man. Boom, you could have had that, but that didn't happen. Then you get to MJ. Oh boy, how Peter Parker speaks to MJ is very, very, very different than how he speaks to her when he's wearing the mask and he's Spider-Man. When he talks to her as Peter, he's shy, he's awkward, he's timid, because he can't believe someone like MJ is even interested in him. And MJ, 9 times out of 10, she has to take lead on the conversation. She has to ask him out on the date. She has to tell him to make the move. Why? Because MJ exudes confidence. Period. When he interacts with her as Spider-Man, however, it's different, because he's a little more confident. He's a little more, I don't want to say boisterous, but he takes the lead. He'll be like, I want to do this. I want to do that. And that's why MJ, sometimes she'll fall for Spider-Man first. But none of that is shown in the film. So there we go. Then we have the best friend. I can only speak to Harry. Ned, I don't remember them ever being best friends in comics or anything like that. So, But with him and Harry despises Spider-Man. So it's an even deeper layer. Like Peter could feel like he's betraying Harry, because that's his best friend, right? And he knows he didn't kill his father, but Harry believes that. So while he's doing all these heroic things, Harry is never proud, never satisfied, nothing. So Peter could feel a sense of betrayal, but that never comes up, so who cares? Like, it's just so disappointing. It's so disappointing. And I'll tell you what, they have one opportunity to do it right. They have one opportunity to really show the duality between Peter and Spider-Man, and that is due to the events of No Way Home, right? All of his personal relationships with Ned, with the Avengers, with MJ, they're all gone because of him. They're gone because of him being Spider-Man, and everybody in the whole wide world knew about it at one point in time. So he is left now utterly alone, right? And even that, they're kind of trying to retcon, because in Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange remembers working with Spider-Man, but I question to what extent, because the whole reason that started, it boils down to Doctor Strange knowing that Peter is Spider-Man. Like, it's very weird, but ignoring that. Point of the matter is, Peter's utterly alone now, and that needs to be explored. And if it's not, I will know for a fact you don't understand the character. Because yes, he can be a hero in secrecy now, but look at the cost. He has no love life. He has no friends. He has nobody to lean on. That should make him angry at himself. That should make him angry at the idea of being Spider-Man. Because look at what this is taken away from you. If you don't explore that, I'll know. I mean, it's been proven with this trilogy, they really don't understand Spider-Man as a character. But if they really fuck it up with this next movie, or if they're even doing another trilogy, I will know I don't need to put my money towards it anymore. Period. So that's it. This was a rant, semi-rant, I guess. It just annoying. What do you guys think? Let me know, or don't. Either way, thank you for listening and watching. I'll check you guys later. Bye.